Apple II forever, making life better and better. Apple II forever and ever, bringing the rainbow to you.
How many of you know there was a computer from the mid-1980s, a 16-bit successor to the 8-bit machines of the past? It had better graphics, but it also had groundbreaking sound. Instead of the beeps, buzzes, and bloops of PC speakers or the square waves of the AY and SN76 chips, it was capable of reproducing high-fidelity sampled audio. That's right, the Commodore Amiga. Wait a minute. The Apple IIGS. Let's look at the 2GS sound chip, the Ensoniq 5503. It has 32 oscillators, usually divided into 15 voices, 64K of dedicated sound memory, up to 8 output channels, and it's capable of multiple sampling rates. As you can see, the 2GS is well suited for playing back Amiga mods. The Ultimate Sound Tracker was the first popular music tracker which was released for the Amiga in 1987. The sound format combined sampled instruments with sequences of patterns. Musicians needed only a home computer, the Amiga, to create near professional sounding music with no specialized hardware. Now on to the 2GS music trackers. Hybrid Owlbears released Soundsmith for the 2GS in 1989, and it was a revolution for games and demos. The FTA released Noise Tracker for the 2GS in 1991. Whereas Soundsmith was limited to 64K of sound RAM, Noise Tracker allowed swapping samples from main RAM. This allowed larger mods to be played. Let's talk about that 64K of dock RAM. The Apple IIGS has only 64K of dedicated RAM for sound samples. If a mod file contains more than about 64K of instrument data, the 2GS's CPU needs to stream samples from main RAM into sound RAM in real time. This puts significant load on the processor. Several other 2GS mod players followed Noise Tracker: Sonic Tracker, Shellplay, ModZap, Beatbox, to name a few. Now in the 2020s, we have Ninja Tracker Plus from Ninja Force, and its companion music jukebox, Sensei Play. Sensei Play was designed to load quickly in Protos 8 to audition NTP mod files. It uses a mostly text-based interface, and it supports playing entire directories Jukebox style. The inspiration for my visualizer was seeing Sensei Play and remembering that I'd wanted to try to experiment with making fast VU meters using the VidHD text modes. After seeing that work, I ended up with the meters on a star field, and then I looked for ways to make that more interesting. The VidHD text modes offer higher resolution, but they weren't intended for fast animation. So there's a formula we can use to determine how many characters per frame we can get. With the 120x67 mode that the visualizer uses, we can achieve about 66 characters per frame, if nothing else is going on. The VidHD uses the Cout and Pascal text interfaces to output characters, so there's no memory mapped plotting. But there are a few 80-column terminal commands that can help us plot certain things quickly, like the ability to clear a line or a portion of the screen with a single character. There are many sources for mods around the internet. Modarchive.org is one of the largest. Mods or tracker music can also be found with 2GS games and demos. Before I show you the software, let's look at the hardware. In this Apple IIGS ROM 3, we have a VidHD, a stereo card, CFFA 3K, 9 MHz zip, an A2 FPGA, right now used as a onboard audio and mocking board, and we have the custom, ill-fitting but well-fitted 2GS case lid, 3D printed, and it has a built-in mixer with 3D sound and bass boost, and a Lixie Labs emotoscope. J. Craft's first law of mods. The smaller the mod's file size, the better chance that it's good. Let me know if you agree. Now it's time to release the mods and visuals. Everything you see in the visualizer is ASCII or mouse text characters. Remember, I only have a few dozen plots per frame before characters are dropped. First up, we'll put my law to the test with some small file size but very good sounding mods. And you'll get to see what the visualizer looks like for the first time. Most mod files utilize 4 tracks, but there are some out there that use more. Here's a couple of 8-track mods. There's also a piano note view mode that I turn on briefly for these 2 mods. These mods work really well with the visualizer because they have a high tempo. Also, the second mod uses only 3 tracks, and it's amazing what it's able to do with 3. Now we'll get to see what the 2GS looks like along with another visualizer, and this is also one of my favorite mods. I apologize for the noisy sound quality, but I had to record this using the room audio. Some of the best music for the Apple IIGS comes in the Soundsmith format. What Soundsmith lacks in effects, it makes up for in the sheer number of tracks available. Despite being a home computer music format from the 1980s, clever composers are able to make some pretty realistic sounding instruments. Here's a couple of great guitar tunes. Before computers could play MP3s, some composers used mods to recreate popular recorded music by reconstructing their sequences. This allowed familiar songs to fit in just a couple hundred K instead of many megabytes it would have taken as an uncompressed recording. Here's an excellent example.
What does the billboard say? Come and play, forget about the movement. What does the billboard say? Come and play, forget about the movement.
Okay, I just got done saying the smaller the mod file, the better the song. Well, here's a counterexample, a very large 650K mod. The GS struggles a little bit playing it, but the sample quality is excellent, and it comes with its own applause. Here's a clip with more light where you can see the GS a little better.
Somebody asked way earlier to describe the mods to your 2GS case, the mods to the mod maker.
Mod maker. So the lid, it's something that I had last year, but I didn't. I mean, I basically had the basic model, but this is a new lid with some different modifications to it. So it's a 3D printed lid in one piece, and I have a mixer kind of installed in the lid, so I have some volume controls. There's multiple sound outs, so I'm actually using the A2 FPGA as for the onboard speaker audio because it sounds really nice digital coming through. And I have a little board in there that gives me sort of a 3D sound and bass boost just for fun because they exist. And probably the main thing you're seeing is that Lixie Labs emotoscope in the front. When I saw this thing, I was like, oh, this is a perfect sized thing to fit in the front of a 2GS lid. And it's a visualizer in its own right. And so I'm basically waiting for there to be a way to directly communicate with it, which I'm sure is possible. It's an ESP32. What I'm doing now is I'm basically going through the GS serial port to talking to a Raspberry Pi, which is sending like sort of the WebSocket remote control commands to the emotoscope to change colors. So there's probably a lot more I could do if I can talk to it directly.
Cool. And then I noticed it looked like you were actually touching it every now and then. What is that doing?
So the emotoscope, it has like three touch areas: the left side, the right side, and the top. And so, well, the top is to change modes. It has maybe 5 or 6 different visualizer modes. But of course, when it's inside the case, you can't touch the top of it. But I found that by printing a piece of conductive filament to put on the top of the 2GS case, and it goes all the way through and touches the top of the emotoscope, then I'm giving myself a way to initiate touches. So basically, just um, to change modes, and it's also how you can turn it off.
Cool. And presumably that's also something that you would eventually want to hook up to the 2GS directly or something to control.
If there's yeah, I mean, it's actually open source firmware, though I haven't really looked at it, but there's probably a way to just send it the command to turn it on and off. So then you would be able to program that.
Cool. Um, okay, and Patar is asking, of course, is this available to use and download now?
Uh, yeah, so I plan to do a little better job with this than I did with Aztec from last year, although that is still coming. Actually, when working on this, I learned a few things that I can use to make Aztec a little more clean as far as launching it. But yes, it's not there now, but in the next couple of days, I'll post a download for it. This is actually built off of, as I mentioned, Sensei Play, which is Dig and Brock's software. So I think he'll be okay if I just post a binary download, and then we can worry about combining the source if he wants to do that later.
Okay, cool. What about are you open to releasing the 3D files for your case, your 2GS case, like the STL file or something?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned, it's not a perfect fit, but that means maybe someone else can really polish it up a little bit. Is actually I took originally I took option eight's Charles Mangan's. He has a 2GS model. It's not designed for actually printing a case. It's sort of just the outer shape, but I kind of took that and I started modifying the lid from there until I got something that gave it a pretty decent fit. But of course, it's not going to snap on like a real lid. It needs a little more trial and error because of the sides, especially. Um, and I haven't really experimented a lot with printing in different kinds of plastic. Maybe I can get thinner sides, and they'll be more closer to the original lid. But I'm happy
Cool.
to send the 3D files for that.
Yeah. Okay. And then I guess related, Steve is curious, who printed it, and then what material is it made out of?
So I printed it. Oh, so you know what? I can't get my nice my one of a kind FTA modulate shirt in the camera because this iPad is like doing the automatic camera with my face. Anyway, um, uh,
Cool.
so I printed it on a Prusa XL. So the Prusa XL has a big enough print bed to print a 2GS lid in one piece. So it's made this. It's just out of PLA, standard PLA, in some kind of a, I forget the name of the color. It's like obsidian or something. I can find the actual filament used, but I don't know the name off the top of my head.
Some and then I had a question about making the mod files. Like, how would you actually convert like a regular, I don't know, like an MP3 or some other song file into a mod
You
file?
would, well, the mod file you'd have to convert. You mean mod files to Ninja Tracker, probably, right?
Yes, yes,
Format.
yeah.
Yeah. So Ninja Force actually has a converter on their website that is just a web converter, and it'll convert it for you. That you can also just run the PHP file if you have a lot of files to convert or something. You can run it from the command line. They have a download in their Ninja Tracker Plus archive that has the PHP code, and you can just run it that way. Um, what I use is OpenMPT, which is a pretty up-to-date Windows tracker, but it supports the mod format. So you can load mods there and make some minor modifications if you have to sometimes for the GS. You might want to do that, but just the basic conversion is just going to the Ninja Force website, using their converter, and then move that file to the Apple II, and it's ready to play.
Do you have to do anything like assign a different, I don't know what you would call it, tracks or instruments or something like that? Like, like, or does it do a good job just converting it?
It does a good job converting it because, I mean, NTP is essentially it's like a preprocessor for mod, so the
Mhm.
format is very similar. I'm sure Jesse Blue would explain it better, but I think it's basically putting things, or it's arranging things in ways that are easier for the 2GS to consume, rather than having the mod player on the GS sort of have to think about that stuff first. What the NTP player does is it can try to fit a mod into the 2GS dock RAM. So, and if it's a small enough mod and it can fit it all into dock RAM, that's ideal because the it won't use a lot of CPU, right? Trying to swap samples in and out of RAM. But if it can't do that, then it'll assign certain instruments to be streamed. So that's basically what the NTP conversion does. Just makes it easier um, for playback on the 2GS.
Cool. Let me
But since like generally the GS is a superset of the Amiga sound chip, so there really isn't, other than fitting things in RAM, it's not it doesn't have to turn tracks off or anything, because there's you're not going to find any mods that use more tracks than the 2GS has voices to play,
so,
most likely.
so next year's Kansas Fest, if we have a demo scene night, Jay, are you going to come and bring your TGS and run it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, sorry I missed doing that this year. I actually had some more little silly additions to it that I was gonna whip out, but yeah, I'm glad I was
Awesome.
able to get you guys a video to show it here.
Sweet. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for doing that. This is amazing. I don't see any other questions. Jay, is there anything else you want to say about it?
um no, it was just it's a lot of fun. I just thought it would be fun to have something to watch while you're playing through your mod library. um and that's it. Yeah, and as Paul said, if you have a chance later on, please take a look at it, maybe on YouTube. If it's going to play at the full 60 frames, then it's a lot smoother and more enjoyable. And I will release the at least the binary to run it, and all the mods that I'm using in a few days.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much. And
Thanks.